These are SANRIO stickers that I got from a Hello Kitty activity pack at Five Below. The stickers include characters like Hello Kitty, My Melody, Keroppi, Pom Pom Pudding, and more, all in these food shapes or food-themed items. The stickers gave me such an inspiration that I kind of wanted to bring these food items to life. So hi everyone, I'm Ward, and welcome to my channel Wardrawsalot, and this week we're going to be taking these stickers and making them into real-life SANRIO food. After much consideration of which ones I wanted to do, I pulled out the most important part of the project. This is air dry clay from the Dollar Tree. So this whole pack is $1.25. It's air dry, so you don't have to put it in the oven or use heat just to cure it and stuff like that, like normal clay would. Although it is of lower quality, it can do the job, and I really wanted to see if it worked, especially because I bought it a long while ago, and I never got around to using it. So I thought that this was a perfect time to finally get to actually testing the grounds with it. Now, before I actually go ahead and use them, I test them out a little bit and get a feeling of the clay. No matter what art medium you're using, whether it's clay, paint, markers, or anything really, it's good to get a feel of how it is. Otherwise, you won't find out what works and doesn't work with it. After using this clay only for about a minute, I saw how dry it got so quickly, so that's when I knew I had to make sure I had a bowl of water on hand next to me so this way I could rehydrate the clay, especially because I was going to go back and forth with it so much. The first piece I wanted to work on was the one that I thought would take the longest, and that is the Keroppi burger. From the image, you can see that it is a Keroppi pair of buns, and, you know, he's got his little smile and his little blushies. It's actually kind of cute. Along with a slice of cheese, we could tell that. A pink thing, which I'm guessing is the patty, which is, you know, funny to me because I would expect the patty to be brown if it's cooked and not pink, but I'm guessing they just put it as pink to save money on, like, printing. Along with a piece of lettuce, and then this blue thing right under it. I was just so confused, like, what the hell could you put on a burger that's blue? So what I ultimately did with that was just completely ignore its existence because it just doesn't make any sense to me. So ultimately what I do is just kind of take some creative liberties with the Keroppi burger because, you know, it just makes more sense in the universe that I'm going to be using it in. All these creations are eventually going to be going towards a SANRIO cafe that I'm going to be making for my dolls. And it's going to take a very long time to put that cafe together. So I figure instead of trying to do everything at once, I do little bits and bobs here and there, and eventually things will come together and I could just go ahead and put it into one large compartment video. So like little things would eventually kind of come together and do that, because otherwise that like room would take me forever to do. If I just tell myself, oh, if I just sit down and do it in one day, I'll get it done. That's never gonna happen. So it's just way better to take things slowly. So with the Keroppi buns, the first thing I do is kind of look back at the photo for a reference and shape it out to what I think it would look like in real life. It kind of, you know, looks silly because it's a character as the shape of a burger, but I've seen it a lot where people will take bread and kind of put it like a certain way and make shapes with it to make it, you know, look cute. So I guess it makes sense to a degree, but I'm just trying to figure out how it would all come together in the shape. I think the hardest part about the bun was making his bow. I'm working in a very small scale here, and I'm not used to that at all. I picked a hobby that just so happens to be the exact opposite of my skill set. So I'm going to be struggling a little bit. The buns, though, came out pretty alright. The patty was pretty easy to do. It's just like a flat circle, and then I made some grooves to make it look like it was grilled. The slice of cheese was just kind of a, you know, flat square, and I tried to shape it around the burger bun as well. And then the tomatoes were just two little circles. That was kind of an easy thing to do. The piece of lettuce knocked me out, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why it was so hard to grasp what a piece of lettuce looked like in clay form, but for some reason, no matter how much I messed around with it, it just did not look right to me, and I literally went back and forth with it for like, I'm gonna say at least a half hour, because I was just like, how do I do this? And it's something so simple. It's always the simple little things that get me. It's never the most complicated, complex thing that like drives me up a wall. It's the little easy part that does. After I shaped everything, I put it together to see how it would look like, and this burger would like equate in real life to like a foot tall. So I was like, okay, we gotta go back and resize some things. So I kind of squished some things down and removed some clay off of some pieces to try and make it fit a little tighter, so you know, like you can hold it with your hands. Like that's the equivalent of what I'm thinking. Obviously we can't hold a foot tall burger in our hands, at least not unless it's very, very awkwardly. So if you just like try and think of it in a sense of, does this match with a real life scale, then maybe it'll come together much better when you're building this kind of thing. After squishing some things around, I kind of put it back together again and thought that it didn't look too bad now, at least compared to before. Once I turned it on its side, I kind of saw that the bun was a little bit too big, so I ended up removing some clay from that too, and then smoothing it down so this way it kind of doesn't look, you know, like a massive fat bun on the top compared to the rest of the burger. After I was done with all that and I was kind of happy with the shape, I went ahead and put it on a piece of paper to the side so it could dry properly. Like the package said, it needs 24 hours to go ahead and dry, so I made sure to kind of leave it alone and let it do its thing on the side. After working on the Keroppi burger, I only thought it was necessary to go ahead and make the Hello Kitty fries, especially because I eat burgers and fries all the time, so it only makes sense to have that side with it. And it looked like there was another kind of character with the fries in the sticker pack, but I couldn't make it out to who it was, and I kind of did some research and couldn't find anything. And I almost thought it could be like the pet that Hello Kitty has, which is ironically another cat. Just weird, but like it didn't like fit the vibe for me, so I was like, never mind, I'm just gonna do the Hello Kitty pack instead. I went ahead and took some clay, laid it flat, and then just kind of cut it into individual pieces for the fries. I made a lot of them, and the reason why is because I knew some was gonna break or brittle up or just straight up die in the process of drying, especially because of how thin and small they are. So I took that as a precaution when making that. The next piece we have going on are actually the donuts. I'm somebody who fiends for sweets. It is the way I live and survive. So after a meal, I'm always like, let's have some little sweet treat. So I thought it would be like make sense to me if I gave the little sweet treat along with the food. So I decided to go with the donuts that kind of have the theme of the characters and not outright the characters. So the ones that I picked were like a Hello Kitty themed donut, and this is the sticker, along with the My Melody donut, which also has the sticker too. Of everything, I think the donuts gave me the least hard time, especially because of how simple they are. They're just literally a round shape squished down and then with a hole in the middle. The little accessories that came on top of the donuts, like the bow for the Hello Kitty one, was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. But the flower for the My Melody donut did give me a very difficult time. For some reason, I just couldn't grasp around how the shape was going to look like. I know I could have just done like 4 individual pieces and kind of mushed them together for the flower. But honestly, I only knew that after I struggled with it for so long. I don't know what it is sometimes about clay. I remember even taking a ceramics course. That's what it was. I took a ceramics course in college, and I always struggled with ceramics then too, or like just clay and using clay in general. My projects were never that great in comparison. I'm not gonna boast because my projects were pretty butt compared to everyone else's. I'm very one-dimensional when it comes to making 3D things, but I've gotten better since then. It's just that when it comes to making stuff like this, I take much longer to grasp what's going on, and that's okay. Everybody has a different skill set, you know, like everyone does everything a different way, and we all take a certain amount of time to learn how to get used to it. And from this course in college, I actually learned that I have more of a math brain than I do an artist brain, so I actually had to kind of work harder at understanding what I was doing when it came to a lot of those projects. Finally, after hours and hours of doing this because of my perfectionism, I put them to the side to dry for those 24 hours to make sure that they're completely ready to be painted on. In the meantime, I tried making a little cup like the one in the sticker right here so they could have like a little drink on the side for their meal, and I went kind of back and forth with it and even resized it to the doll to make sure it wasn't too large of a cup, but for some reason, again, when it comes to 3D models, I couldn't grasp it and gave up on the idea. Finally, after waiting 24 hours, I come back to the clay and check on it, and this is how it looks like. As you could tell from now compared to before, it has definitely lightened up quite a bit, so that was an interesting thing to see. After checking and making sure each piece was actually dry and not like damp, I begin the painting process. Now, originally I was actually going to use my gouache paints, but those were all kinds of messed up. They were dry. one part had mold in it, and I was like, damn, I really need to fix these up. Now, it's actually not uncommon for paint to, get moldy, especially if it's working with water a lot like gouache. So it's not the company, and it's not the fault of, them or anything. It's so much more just paint in general will go ahead and, get funky over time if you don't take care of it. So even though I had it closed and locked and everything, stuff still shriveled up and dried and all that, but that's just for me to restore later. So instead I went ahead and used these apple barrel paints that are like literally 50 cents at Walmart. If I didn't have the exact color like this light green for the Keroppi bun, what I did was I just mixed the green that I had with white to kind of lighten it up until it matched the image as close as possible. But a large majority of the colors were really simple and only required just like the base amount of paint without mixing, so for the most part I was having a really easy time when it came to that painting process. Of course, following the picture, the top and bottom bun are both green. The things that are different colors though are like Keroppi's eyes, which are a majority white with the black dot in the middle. Then we also have the bow, which was red, and then finally we also have the little blush on his cheeks, which I'm glad I ended up doing it that way with the paint, because originally I was going to put the two circles there on the face, but I thought that would look ugly, and I was so right. Plus, I think it just looks cuter that way, that it's just painted on there instead of having like the little bulbs of, clay there on the cheek. So I ended up liking that much better anyway. The cheese was super simple, yellow. Just a yellow slice of cheese. And the same thing with the patty. I had to remember the word patty, sorry. And what I did was I kind of darkened it with a little bit of black and filled in the space in between to make it look like it was grilled, because in my head every time I see a picture of a burger it has those little markings on them, so this way you could tell that it is a cooked piece of meat, also that it's probably like been grilled or at least up against some kind of cooked surface thing. You know what I'm talking about, right? The next part is the tomatoes. I just kind of went it with something really simple. I did the red on the outside, and then on the inside I went ahead and used some pink to kind of help give it some dimension. It was a little too flat for me. I know it's like the cheese is just straight up yellow, but like that's cheese. It is straight up yellow. The tomatoes actually have an inside and it's a little bit more translucent. So I told myself, why don't I use the color pink to help kind of give it that quote-unquote translucent look. For the piece of lettuce, I ended up not like using it, especially because for some reason the burger was still stacked pretty high. I'm guessing when the clay shrunk it also got chunkier, so for some reason the burger was still pretty tall when I put everything together, so I was like, okay, let's just get rid of the lettuce. For the fries, I kind of got lazy and I tried to just put the yellow paint on top and then swish the brush around on top of the fries to kind of color it that way. But the issue with that is it wasn't covering the entire fry, and I actually had to go back in individually anyway and try and, cover it up a little bit better. My laziness ended up coming back to bite me because the paint was actually making the clay stick to the paper, causing it to, actually break apart when I tried to pull it away. So if I do this again in the future, which I don't know if I will after this, I will make sure to do things the right way. For the most part, though, I'm glad I went ahead and did that many fries in the first place, so my prediction came true. A lot of fries were lost in the battle. Rest in peace, them. The paint did kind of scrape off because it was attached to the paper, but it actually worked to my advantage because it made the fries look like they had, like, the potato skin on them, making them look a little bit more realistic and dimensional, so I was kind of happy about that little accident. Finally, we have the donuts again. Of course, I'm using the pictures as reference this entire time. The donuts, I used just like a light tan color under because that's how donuts normally look like. On top of the respective character for like My Melody, it was like a pinker color, like a baby pinker color, while the Hello Kitty donut was much more of a hot pink color. So I made sure to just use the respective colors per each donut. I think that truly these two were my favorite of the bunch. There was just something so nice about coloring in the donuts, and they were just so enjoyable. I just liked it. And then on top of that, I added some sprinkles onto it. I just kind of used whatever leftover colors I had sitting in the paint tray and just, you know, put little lines for the sprinkles all over the donuts. After I've done all that and I was finished with everything and satisfied, I went ahead and took a matte varnish. I think it was like a Liquitex matte varnish, and I went ahead and varnished every single piece, so this way there would be no like paint chipping over time or the color would kind of get messed up or anything like that. And then I would put it onto a little mini mat so it could have its time and, you know, dry up the way it needs to. I still wanted to do a kind of like cup of coffee or something on the side because I felt defeated about that cup from earlier. So I took this Barbie like little teacup set that I found at the dollar store, and originally I was going to actually take the teacup and paint it white and then from there kind of give it a design, make it look pretty and all that stuff. But I failed to realize that this plastic is very smooth and paint is not going to stick onto it because of how smooth it is. I should have sanded it first or something, but eventually I gave up on that cup and instead took a new one and mixed together some brownish paint that would kind of simulate coffee and mixed into it Mod Podge, so this way it would kind of harden over time. Of course I ended up dropping it and it made me upset. So I went ahead and went back and kind of fussed around with it until I was satisfied with how it looked. As for the carton for the fries, the Hello Kitty carton, I went ahead and tried to do like this mock-up carton style and cut it out, and I went back and forth like, I'm gonna say 20 times, just until I was satisfied enough with it and how it would look. And once I finally was like, okay, I think that this is going to work, I went ahead and made a little like paper craft of it because that was the only way that I could think of doing it. Originally I had used, I think, watercolor paper because I was like, oh, it's thicker, it's gonna hold up longer, but man, did it like give me such a hard time. It was not a nice bendable paper to work with. It's a thicker paper for a reason. It's not meant to bend and buckle, so that was kind of dumb on my part. So I went ahead and went back with like a regular cardstock paper and I cut out the shapes and I kind of folded in the tabs and stuff like that and glued them down with some regular Elmer's glue to try and make a carton for the fries. This part I felt like it really took the life out of me. This part aggravated me so much because I'm not, again, good with 3D models of any kind. Like in real life, in my head, the 3D model, it's there, it's ready to go, it's done. Actually applying it to something, that like kills me. I feel like sometimes I am a one-dimensional robot and I have no sense of what a 3D object is, but after a while of struggling, I eventually got it. Now, the last part, which was putting together everything, I kind of used hot glue, which I kind of googled up online if I should, and they were like, yeah, it's okay, but as I was using the hot glue, it was actually removing the paint from the clay pieces, and that was making me upset because I was like, why is it being removed? So I kind of struggled when it came to that, and sadly this is where I realized that the burger was getting too tall, and I was like, damn, why is this like this right now? And that's when I realized later on it's probably because of the way it dried and etc, etc. I eventually removed the tomatoes and I was like, forget it, that's just gonna add way too much height, and instead I put that slice of cheese inside, which I originally forgot to put in, so it ended up just being kind of like a meat and cheese burger. Sadly, the other components have been left out, and that's just how it goes sometimes. The little carton, I ended up painting white first to try and give it that nice base color. Then I went ahead and came in with the other colors that would kind of bring it together to make it look like Hello Kitty. So the blue for the blue top, and then I also did the eyes, the whiskers, the yellow nose, and you know, basically all that stuff. Now for the carton, I didn't know if I should glaze it or what I should do to try and keep it like looking good and stable. At this point, sadly, the carton was still kind of like coming apart, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna tape it together. So I kind of let it dry, and then I put over it a layer of tape, so this way it wouldn't like keep messing up or buckling up or anything like that, or just completely falling apart. So that was the only solution that I could think of. Afterwards, I went ahead and put the fries inside of it to try and get a look for how it feels, and I was like so happy. I was like, oh my god, this looks so cute. The entire set looked really cute to me, and I was actually pretty proud of myself, especially because I'm not good at this stuff. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of frustration for me to get used to this kind of stuff, but I was overall pretty happy with how this came out. I think, like I said, the hardest thing about all of this really was that carton. Everything else was okay. I think for the most part I was actually having fun, besides the fact that it took so much longer than my average art crafts are. But that's okay, because the amount of time definitely reflects the amount of effort. And finally, here it is on that Barbie tray that came in that little tea pack. First off, we have the Keroppi burger, which I absolutely love him. He looks so cute just sitting there as a burger form. The little pack of Hello Kitty fries, which has the individual fries, and I kept some on the outside to make it look like someone was eating from them, and maybe in the future I'll add like some ketchup there to kind of make it look like they were being dipped into the ketchup. And there's the tape that's kind of surrounding it. Next we have the little cup of coffee, which again has the Mod Podge and the paint. Now it is still kind of soft and squishy because it kind of crusted on top before it dried on the inside, so I'd be cautious that if you touch that it might just kind of pop open, so be careful with that. And then finally we have both the Hello Kitty and My Melody donuts, and I absolutely love these two. Again, I think my favorite parts were the donuts, and if not that, then definitely the Keroppi burger. I think he looks so nice and goofy just sitting there in burger form, and I love it so much. This definitely took a lot longer than what I wanted it to be, but I had so much fun, and it looks so cool, and I'm kind of tempted to do more, so we'll see how it goes in the future. But yeah, thanks for watching, and remember, I love you. Bye!